Had to shave for a commercial, an industrial actually, that they paid well. I keep seeing the articles about Netflix and the Cannes Film Festival specifically. They said Netflix films are welcome at the Cannes Film Festival, but we're not going to put them in competition. Those are reserved for the most prestigious films that can play theatrically in France. Netflix didn't like that. And of course, Netflix's whole model for feature films is to acquire or make films and release them on their streaming service. And if they do a theatrical release at all, it will be day and date with the streaming service. It's sort of a token theatrical release so they can qualify for awards, because awards are very important in Netflix and all distributors and streaming companies. Certainly a lot of films play in film festivals and film markets like Cannes that are already sold or even probably financed by a mini studio. But I guess it was just going too far when that was just going to be a streaming television company, essentially. I think I kind of agree with Cannes and their decision not to include Netflix films in competition. I kind of applaud it. This also reminded me recently, Steven Spielberg talked about Netflix, and he said, while they make amazing content, some of the best storytelling is on Netflix, he said. But he said they shouldn't be available for Oscars because they're not theatrical films. They're not cinema. It's television, ultimately, he says. And I'm curious what people think about that. I will say I have had a very bittersweet, loving yet frustrated, I was going to say love-hate, but it's not quite hate, but it's a lot of frustration with Netflix as a streaming company, and specifically how they treat feature films, independent feature films. It appears to me that they do not fully understand the heart or mind of the feature film artist. And this is compared to a streaming service like Amazon, which feels like they do understand the heart of the feature film artist. Netflix does television really well, serialized television really well, because its entire system and format is really designed for that type of medium, that type of format of storytelling. Oddly enough, I started to get language for how I thought about Netflix when I was watching a Netflix show, Chef's Table. And I think it was season 1, episode 1, and it was the first time I really understood why fine dining, really artistic food, was so small. The portions were so small, and it was something the chef said when he made a dish of ravioli, and there was like 5 raviolis. And he said, by presenting what I've made in very limited quantity, you're forced to respect the ingredient. And I got it. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, of course. And we treat the culinary arts with great respect for the artists, the chefs, and in the way their food and restaurants are presented. And we respect the ingredients. We go to a restaurant, we order off a menu, we look at our portion size, we savor the food, we understand the art involved, and we pay top dollar for it because we understand the ingredients involved and how much training and creativity went into this. And the whole night out to a really fine dining restaurant is just an experience. If it's just about the food, we could get that at a buffet, right? But we don't, because there's an inherent respect for an artist and his creation in the culinary world. Netflix, to me, has become like a buffet, and they have really amazing food. They have high-quality food because they can pay amazing artists to create and make films and television. And they have junk food, crap, you know. Certainly, the range is pretty vast on Netflix. But it's a buffet style where you walk in and you sort of pick, oh, I want the good stuff or the bad stuff. And as an artist, a chef would never have his amazing food be presented in a buffet because there's not a respect for the ingredient, there's not a respect for the process. Independent filmmakers make a film, and I mean, I remember, you know, A Home at the End of the World. I think it was Macon Blair's film that was at Sundance last year, you know. He poured his heart and soul making his first feature. Elijah Wood, Melanie Linsky starred in it. and made a lot of waves at Sundance. Netflix bought it, scooped it up for a lot of money, and they released it 3 months later. And they just put it out in their service. And I remember the day it came out, I was like, oh, it's out, because they bought some ads and I saw it. And it was there in the front of Netflix. And then like a week later, it was gone. It's still there. You can go get it. But it was like, it was its turn in the buffet line. It showed up and then it went away. And I remember just being heartbroken. Now, the filmmakers, I'm sure, are loving the money they got. They're counting the cash. But I promise you there's a sense of loss and a little bittersweetness, because their film was presented and it wasn't given an opportunity for anyone to respect the ingredients. It wasn't given an opportunity for people to respect the process, the piece of art itself. Cinema is an art form. Independent feature film cinema. Netflix didn't understand how to present it with a respect to it, versus someone like Amazon, which bought Manchester by the Sea and respected the film, respected the artist, and actually gave it sort of an artist release. It gave it a theatrical release where it was able to build up momentum, build up a lot of buzz, and then ultimately go on and sell and stream on the digital platform. And of course, it got a lot of awards, and it made a lot of money. It made, I think, over $50-60 million domestically in the theaters. So it's not just about sort of the vanity of having your film play in theaters. There's actually a case to be made that it can be more profitable, while riskier for films to play theatrically, if it's presented right, and if it's something the market that makes sense, with the market, then it can actually be more profitable. That was a good case study, I feel like, for how Amazon understood, respected the ingredients of film. I haven't seen Netflix release a feature film yet that showed me any sort of respect or understanding for the art form or for the filmmakers, the artists. And even when, David Ayer's film came out, Bright, as a filmmaker, as a director in feature films, certainly ones that are DGA, they'll say, our David Ayer film. And I remember when Bright came out, it said, Bright, a Netflix film. And it clicked. Netflix is a distributor. You never see a distributor buy a film and then release it and say the name of the film and then say it's a film by the distributor. They say it's a film by a director, because the distributor is just distributing the film. Netflix is a distributor, and they're acting like they're a creator. And that just seemed to betray an arrogance that Netflix was presenting to the piece of art. And it just seemed to go in line with a continual tone deafness, misunderstanding for how filmmakers approach their own art and how they want their distributors. And the thing that sucks and is going to keep perpetuating it is because Netflix has so much money, they can basically write the biggest check to get whatever they want. And of course, I would do the same thing. I would, if I make a film, because you bleed to make a film and you spend years making it and you want an audience to see it and you have investors. And so when you get someone like a Netflix who wants to pay you, you really feel indebted to do what's right by the film and the people who've invested in it. I mean, Nate Parker turned down a $20 million offer from Netflix, right, for Birth of a Nation. But that was because he had like a $17 million offer from Focus Features. If you're not getting other offers, it's like, well, there's nothing you can do. You have to sell it because they're offering you so much money. It's sort of an offer you can't refuse. But you're selling away something else with it. And if I made, Home at the End of the World, the Macon Blair film, I know that's not the title. I'm screwing that up. Sorry, Macon and whoever's involved in that. But if I pour my heart and soul into that, if I made a film like that, and I would be thrilled that it premiered at Sundance and that sold. But it just sort of came and went. Netflix didn't properly release it, in my opinion, or films like it. So when Cannes says, we're not going to show your films in competition, I'm kind of like, good, because I feel like things need to change. And it's easy as Netflix just changing their philosophy, changing how they think about filmmakers, independent filmmakers, and the art itself. It's so different than television. It is a completely different art form. I don't mean it's just a different medium. I mean it's a different art form. And I love that Netflix can show independent feature films, but they have to understand the art form. They have to treat the ingredients with respect. They have to treat the artist with respect, not just for vanity's sake, but for profitability's sake, but for also preserving the art form. Fine dining culinary cuisine will die out if buffets are the only place you can get, a Wolfgang Puck meal. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. What do you guys think? What do you think about Netflix if you're an independent filmmaker? Certainly the landscape's changing. But how does an artist be able to present their art and have it feel respected in the marketplace, have it feel respected in the art space? And how can we continue to champion great films with massive, deep-pocketed companies coming in that maybe don't understand what we understand? Love your thoughts.